Khan. All right, Shalom. Before we begin, we want to give our praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim Ruach Kudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well and teach well, and also Shalom and salutations to the fellow brethren out there laboring in this work as well. So this lesson, that we're going to be getting into is going to be continuing Esther, the book of Esther, chapter 2. So I'm going to start with that. This is Esther chapter 2 and verse 1 in the NLT. It says, but after Xerxes' anger had subsided, he began thinking about Vashti and what she had done and the decree he had made. So basically, once to sum up what we read in the first chapter, um, you know, um, you had Queen Vashti disobey orders of the king, and then there was a punishment. Her punishment was being banished and sent away, to no longer be the queen, But this disobedience, there had to be an example made, man. It had to be checked because if it went unchecked, then it would have caused disorder. Now we're picking up what happens um after the decrees, has been sent out, for the disobedience. You know, it says, so his personal attendants suggested, let us search the empire to find beautiful young virgins for the king. So they're going into looking for a replacement for Vashti. You see, it says, um, let the king appoint agents in each province to bring these beautiful young women into the royal harem at the fortress of Shusha. And one thing about a king is that he gets the best cream of the crop, man. So the replacement couldn't just be any woman, but she had to basically check every point. She had to, measure up. You see, she had to be almost perfect because when you're a king, everything has to be the highest quality, man. You know. Um, Reading on, it says, I'm gonna read verse 3 again. It says, let the king appoint agents in each province to bring these beautiful young women into the royal harem at the fortress of Shusha. Haggai, the king's eunuch in charge of the harem, will see that they are all given beauty treatments. After that, the young woman who most pleases the king will be made queen instead of Vashti.
hmm
This,
real quick.
yep,
I got the word here for that you read about the Hiram. Real
yep,
quick, I have it here etymology. It says part of a Middle Eastern house reserved for women. So showing you the king, he had his own, household to have his woman. And it wasn't just restricted to one woman, showing you he had multiple women, right? It says from Turkish harem, from Arabic harem, wives and concubines. So he had multiple women. He had a own chamber, which, as you read, he had the eunuch that was responsible for basically the affairs, taking care of his wives.
right,
You know, it says woman's quarters, literally something forbidden or kept safe. Yeah, it was forbidden because it was only for that was his woman. No other man was, basically allowed to touch those women that was in the household that he had for them. That's
right,
why he had a eunuch that would keep charge of his woman,
right,
you know? And in the eunuch, when you go into that definition, it's a person that basically, has their members, you may say, cut off so that, they don't lust after
right.
uh, the woman that they're in charge of, you know? You got it, bro.
Khan. It says, verse 4, it says, after that, the young woman who most pleases the king will be made queen instead of Vashti. This advice was very appealing to the king, so he put the plan into effect. At that time, there was a Israelite man in the fortress of Susa whose name was Mordecai, son of Jair. He was from the tribe of Benjamin, and was a descendant of Kish and Shammai. So yeah, Khan. Just before I keep going, I just want to also mention how that the way the versions were prepared. You know, is it gonna go into it when we read lore or
Should go into it.
right?
Gone.
Okay, Khan. So I'm just keep reading. It says, verse 6: His family had been among those who, with the king Joachim of Judah, had been exiled from Jerusalem to Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar. This man had a very beautiful and lovely young cousin, Hadasha, who was also called Esther. Uh, when her father and mother died, Mordecai adopted her into his family and raised her as his own daughter. It says, as a result of the king's decree, Esther, among with many other young women, was brought to the king's harem at the fortress of Shusha and placed in Haggai's care. And Haggai was very impressed with Esther and treated her kindly. He quickly ordered a special menu for her and provided her with beauty treatments. You see, and that's the thing about the nation of Israel, because Esther was an Israelite. You know, the thing about the nation of Israel is that they always stand out. When they're amongst these nations. You know why? Why do we stand out? Is because we're a special people. Unto the heavenly Father. We're the Lord's people. We're God's chosen people. And the Israelites today, they're known as the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Those are the true biblical Israelites today, man. You know, but wherever the Israelites are and whatever they do, they always stand out. Also, just like in the time of Egypt, how it mentioned that the Israelite woman was more lively than the
Mm,
Egyptians. You know, meaning they were different. They were more lively in spirit. They were more like empowered.
mm-hmm.
Even in the time of was Nebuchadnezzar in the Babylonian Empire, who stood out the most? Daniel and the three Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they stood out. You know, you got something to
Mm-hmm.
say? Yep.
Yeah, I just had that precept that you just mentioned in Exodus. Go get
Con.
it real quick. This is Exodus 1 and verse I'll start at verse 18. It says, and the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have ye done this thing and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and are delivered the midwives come and unto them. In other words, it's basically saying, like, going into how the Israelite woman was more lively, because what they were just bringing forth children, like, like it was, you may say, nothing in a sense, you know, for them it wasn't hard for them to get to give birth. That's what it means, like they were lively, right? And the NLT is going to go into them. I read it in the NLT. It says in verse 19, the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. The midwives replied, they are more vigorous and have their babies so quickly that we cannot get there in time. You see,
Mm.
so they were just like pushing it out, like, yo, like, boom. You know what I'm saying?
It's
You know,
stronger.
that's yes, exactly.
Right.
That's why the Egyptian woman, they're like, yo, we couldn't get all the child, man. Because as soon as they get the child, it's like, yo, it's quickly,
Right.
right? But not only that, the point that you made, that the Israelite women, they stand out. That's the top woman and with on the planet Earth, man.
That's
But
right.
currently, right now, since the curses are upon our people, they're the least desirable woman. But once the kingdom of heaven is established, Eve is gonna get back her beauty, man. Being the top woman that you would want to have. Like Judith, that was an Israelite woman. And
Right.
when you read the book of Judith, it tells you that her beauty was not like any other woman. She sure, men will stop fighting just to gaze upon Judith, man. You know, not only Judith, but the our whole nation are women. They're good looking women. But once again, right now, hey, you know what I'm saying Eve is not desirable. All right, you got it, bro.
I have that in Daniel. This is Daniel 1, and I'm gonna start at uh verse 3, and it says, the king spake unto Aspaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. But Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So even the way of thinking, of the Israelite nation is different from the other nation. We always like to think outside of the box. That's the majority of Israelites. Because when you give an Israelite to do something, they'll perfect it. If you give them time, you
Yeah.
know, they'll perfect it, man. Um, and this is the case with Daniel. He's he's thinking outside the box, for lack of better words, man. It says, verse 9.
Well, just to add on real quick, because he's thinking up on the dietary laws, really.
Right,
If you look
right,
at it,
right,
because based upon our laws, we're supposed to consume foods that's beneficial for the body, not to slow it down.
right,
Foods that you put inside you for you to think clearly and just be more tapped into the spirit.
right.
That's why Daniel and the rest, he said, yeah, I'm not gonna eat the king's meat.
Hmm.
There's even a precept about how like the king's meat, bringeth forth disease. Roughly paraphrasing, there's a
Right,
precept that talks about king's meat, but Daniel was like, yo, I'm gonna eat the legume instead, man.
right.
You know,
Hmm.
because that's when you eat those type of foods, it gives you a sense of clarity of the mind where you get to think clearly.
Right,
You know,
right. And also, in Deuteronomy 4, it tells you how that the law, statutes, and commandments were to set us apart from these nations, and to the nations will look at us like, wow, what nation is that? That has the Most High so near unto them.
yeah,
Verse
that's why Salaki. That's why Nebuchadnezzar, he took the nobles of our nation when he took us to captivity to be in his court. Because
right,
what he saw how that our kingdom how it was established based upon the law, statutes, and commandments and our way of life, and then how it was just like peaceful and he was just the way he saw that Israelites were dwelling amongst each other and how that these people were smart and innovative people was like, yo, I gotta have these nobles in the midst of my court, man, to give me
right,
counsel with different things.
right.
There's a reason why he brought them in his inner court because he saw
Right.
there was a profit in having them with him.
That's right.
You know,
Even if I may add too, just like Joseph with the king of Egypt, Pharaoh, he
yeah,
wanted Joseph in his courts. Why? Because Joseph was a spiritual man, right? He was able to interpret dreams. He was an Israelite. The Most High was near to him, man. And having Joseph around, which the name Joseph is Yahweh Sap in the Hebrew. If I'm not mistaken, it means he add on to, you know, and that's what Joseph did to the empire of Egypt, man. He added, you know. So continuing on in Daniel 1 and verse 9, it says, now Yahweh had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. So once again, he found favor with the eunuch, just like Esther found favor with that eunuch. Just based off, the vibe they got off Esther, that eunuch got off Esther. You know, it says, verse 10, and the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who had appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse like him than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me in
Yeah,
danger.
yeah, it's like it basically he's saying, yo, if you don't eat the king's meat, bro, hey, because it's an investment, right? He brought them in his kingdom because he's investing on the Israelites to help make his kingdom flourish. So here it
Right,
is now, you don't want to eat the meat of the king, and then you're gonna look like you're starving. That means that yo, what are you doing? That's my investment, man.
right,
You're fucking up my investment. So basically, the king is gonna you may say, punish them for not feeding them properly because it's an
right,
investment,
right,
you know?
right. Um, Reading on, it says, for why should he see your faces worse likening than the children which are of your sort? It says, then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king.
You
It
see,
says,
yeah, he's going to make him in danger because what? He's responsible, you
right,
know? Who is he going to come to saying, why are their faces like that? He's going to come to the eunuch because he put him in charge of feeding them and whatnot, man, you
right,
know?
right,
So if he's not eating them and then his face looks, all pale like he's not eating, he looks like the rest of the captives, then he's like, yo, what are you doing with my investment,
right.
you know? But little did he know, shit, you got it, bro.
Verse 11, it says, then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that ate of the portion of the king's meat, and as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Uh, Thus Mazar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse.
Yep. Hey, showing you, hey, hey, Daniel's wisdom, hey, you know what I'm saying? He was applying that, bro,
Right.
you know? And it shows you that, hey, you got to be careful on your diet too. You see what I'm saying?
So fine.
Uh,
Going back to Esther 2 and verse 9, it says, Haggai was very impressed with Esther and treated her kindly. He quickly ordered a special menu for her and provided her with beauty treatments. He also assigned her 7 maidens specially chosen from the king's palace, and he moved her and her maids into the best place in the harem. It says Esther had not told anyone of her nationality and family background because Mordecai had directed her not to do so. Every day, Mordecai would take a walk near the courtyard of the harem to find out about Esther and what was happening to her. It says, before each young woman was taken to the king's bed, she was given the prescribed 12 months of beauty treatments, six,
mhm.
mo- 6 months with oil of myrrh, followed by 6 months with special perfumes and ointments. When it was time for her to go to the king's palace, she was given her choice of whatever clothing or jewelry she wanted to take from the harem. That evening, she was taken to the king's private rooms, and the next morning, she was brought to the second harem, where the king's wives lived. It says,
Hey,
there,
so like,
yep,
it shows you that there was a process that, before you present yourself to the king, you have to go to a particular process of purification first. There's even a separate house for the wives too. You see that? And you have to go to that 12 months of the oils, the perfumes, you know, to get that good smell in you, the according to what the king likes. And afterwards, you go meet the king.
Right.
You know, and like if you went in the spiritual sense, that's the same thing that the elect is doing.
Right.
You know, they're prepping themselves before the bridegroom comes. You know, tying it with the anointing. Scriptures does say we have an anointing from Yahweh Shem Yahushua, and we know all things, right?
Right.
So, we're anointing ourselves with this truth. You know, we're immersing ourselves with this truth. You know, purifying ourselves before we meet the Lord, man. Because we have to take out that filth that's within us,
Right.
right? That's why scriptures say, that he might cleanse it and wash it by the that he might wash it and purify it by the washing of the word.
Right.
You know, everything. The oil, the water. That's all ties in with the word, man. Purifying yourself before you meet Yahweh Shai.
That's right.
And putting on the garments too, right? Synonymous with the truth, right? And Revelation speaks about putting on the garments. And just like with Esther, he said, the eunuch provided, whatever garment that they wanted to put on before they met the king.
Hmm.
You know.
That's right. I got something real quick because you couldn't just present yourself before the king just like that. You couldn't just appear, however you wanted. But there's a particular way, you have to present yourself to the king. And in this case, like the brother's going into, spiritually speaking, in the symbolic sense, the elect is preparing themselves for Yahweh Shai, which Yahweh Shai is the King of Kings, right?
Hmm.
Um, so like this is Psalms 64, so like 65 and verse 4. It says, "Blessed is the man whom thou choosest and causeth to approach unto thee, that he may dwell in thy courts. We shall be satisfied with the goodness of thy house, even of thy holy temple." So you're blessed if you're chosen to come and dwell with the king,
Hmm.
because not anybody could just appear like that. But you went through what's required. Like in this case, we're going into being presented to Yahweh Shai. There's a cleansing process that you have to go through, and once you make it out of that, then you'll be considered pure and clean. You
Wow.
know, to be
Yeah.
received by Yahweh Shai.
Hmm. Yeah. You mentioned how you said that not everybody could just come in the king's court, because you had to be a particular stock or a particular household. You had to be nobility to be within the king's court. Makes me think when King Saul, he told David, to be his army bearer. David was like, "Yo, me? I'm a nobody. I'm just a guy.
Right,
Showing you how that it wasn't just anybody that would be up in the king's court and eating the king's meat.
right.
You know, so
That's
so
right.
just backing up that point, bro.
Con. I got another precept real quick. This is
Hmm.
Second Ezra 7, and I'm gonna start out verse 6. It says, "There is also another thing. A city is builded and set upon a broad field, and is full of all good things. The entrance thereof is narrow, and is set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were a fire on the right hand, and on the left a deep water, and only one path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once. If the city now were given unto a man for an inheritance, if he never shall pass the danger set before it, how shall he receive this inheritance?" So this is also a part of that cleansing process. The path that we have to walk. With the fire and the water on each side, man. Which fire and water are cleansing agencies. And
Yeah,
scriptures also speak about how too much uh, tribulation, or too much trial, in other words, we're going to enter into the kingdom of heaven, man. Because when you're tried, you're basically being purified and purged of impurities, man. You know,
sure.
until you shine, like you're clean like gold.
Hmm. Yeah, that's why when in the ancient time when they would get a wound, let's say it's a war, right? They're fighting whatever, and then he gets a wound. I don't know, an arrow got shot in his thigh or whatever, and then he has to, treat that wound right then and there. So
Right.
what they would do, they would take like I don't know if they have their sword and then they have like a campfire. They would put the sword in the fire and heat it up to a certain temperature. Then to close up the wound, they would put that hot iron on the wound.
Right.
But even before then, they would clean it first with what? With water or alcohol, whatever that they had. That's either water or alcohol. They poured on that on the wound first to clean it, and then afterwards they close up the wound with that hot iron. Proving how that what those two agents right there, like cleansing or purifying agents.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
like you made the point. The elect. They're gonna go through that fire. Till the Most High sees His image and His elect. You know.
Right.
Uh, did you finish that or
Yeah, Khan.
I have some real quick?
Khan, you got it.
Um, this is Zechariah 13 and verse 8. I'm gonna start at verse 8. It says, "And it shall come to pass that in all the land saith the Lord, two parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein." Pertaining to the 2/3 of a people in the land of America, they're gonna die on this side, but what? The 1/3 being the elect is gonna be saved, right? But this is the point here in verse 9. It says, "And I will bring the third part through the fire." You see that? The third part is gonna have to go through the fire, okay? So that so that you have to be tested to see what type of work that you are. Are you a precious stone? Are you gold, silver? Right? You
Right.
have to be put through that fire. You're gonna have to pass through it. There's a reason why it's called Jacob's trouble. Because what Jacob is gonna be in trouble.
Right.
The elect, they're not gonna be the elect's gonna have to go through the fire too, man. All right. But
Right.
the difference is that we're gonna have a hedge about us, right? Verse 9 again, it says, "And I will bring the third part through the fire, and I will refine them as silver is refined, and try them as gold is tried, and they shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Lord Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai is my power." We're gonna have to go through the fire. Abarat will be of the elect, so that what? We're purified, so that the Lord sees his image in us. Just like with how you call those guys? Those guys that man, those guys that purify gold or
Smith.
whatnot.
The Smiths.
Yeah, just like with the smith. They know when a particular I don't know if they're purifying gold. They know when it's good until they see their image in it.
Right.
You know. Likewise, that's how Yahweh Shai is viewing his elect. That's why we're gonna have to pass through those tribulations, so that what we're purified, so that dross is taken out from us.
Right. Right. And we're basically like you said, until Yahweh sees His image in us, man. Because scriptures say that we're to try to be perfect, as our heavenly Father is perfect. Uh, so I have another quick precept, real quick.
Hmm.
This is Revelation 14 and verse uh so okay. Yeah, I just had it. Revelation 14 and verse, I'm gonna start at verse 3. It says, "And they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth." And this song is speaking about a doctrine, this doctrine, a teaching, which only the elect, are gonna get in this time. Verse 4, basically tying into how that the elect is also referred to as virgins. you know Verse 4
Hmm.
says, "These are they which were not defiled with woman, for they are virgins." So it's referring to the elect as virgins. And being not defiled with woman is talking about not being defiled with any other philosophies, but they kept the doctrine sound. The elect kept the doctrine sound and pure. You
Hmm.
know, that's what made them virgins. It's symbolically speaking, and it's not literal. You know, it says, "These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth," and who's the Lamb is Yahweh Shai. And Yahweh Shai said, "My sheep hear my voice, and they follow me, and I am known of them." You see, it says, "These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto Yahweh and to the Lamb." So just to bring it home, just like in Esther, how those virgins, they had to go through a particular cleansing period. The elect, which are also referred to as virgins, they're going through a particular cleansing period as well, man. You know,
Hmm.
until they're presented to the king. You got anything?
Yeah, well, I quoted this earlier. I'm gonna get it real quick because
Oh,
the cleansing thing was brought up again. This is Ephesians 5 and verse 26. It says that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. Which
right,
ultimately that's the true baptism. The true baptism is you being basically immersed or dunked in the scriptures, not
right,
in literal water. Water was just a symbolic. Hey, you know what I'm saying?
right,
Those the scriptures are written in code too, man.
right,
That's why when John the Baptist, when he was doing the baptism, he said there's one that's coming that's gonna, baptize you with, with Hakodesh and the word, roughly paraphrasing.
right,
He was just doing a foreshadowing of what Yahweh was gonna do with the word.
right,
See?
right.
That's what ultimately cleanses us. That's what ultimately truly washes us,
That's right,
inwardly.
right,
You see that?
right. And that's what changes you. You know,
Yeah.
because if you're washed within, that's why Yahweh Shai said, change first or clean first that which is inside of the cup before the outside. Because when the inside of the cup is clean and renewed, then you're truly changed. You know, you're truly altered. But if
Yeah.
you if it's a literal baptism, for example, if someone were to get baptized in the Christian church, they would get baptized, but then right after that, man, they would commit evil. They would go back to living the way they live. You know,
Hmm.
was showing you that's not sincere. It's fake. You could act like you got baptized. You could do it for the physical, just to do it, to make it seem like you're righteous, but inwardly you're wicked, man. And that's why Yahweh Shai was always pushing that, man. That inside of the cup. That's what's more important, you know. Because when
Hmm.
once again, if you're clean inwardly, then you're sincerely you're gonna sincerely change, in lack of better words, man. You got anything?
Yeah. Bro. No, no, you got it, bro.
Con. So going back to Esther 2 and verse 14, it says, that evening she was taken to the king's private rooms, and the next morning she was brought to the second harem where the king's wives lived. There she would be under the care uh, of Shashaj, the king's eunuch, in charge of the concubine. She would never go to the king again unless he had especially enjoyed her and requested her by name. You
Hmm.
know, and that's the case with the elect. To parallel that with the elect, they each and every elect member, has been called by name. They is known by name to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, man. You know,
Ooh, yo. It's heavy you said that because even look at it this way, she made it to the next, you may say, the next stage of that selection period.
right,
Because let's say if you displeased the king, you wouldn't move up to the second chamber.
right,
You know, you would just be probably on the side, or the king would not even remember your name. You know, that's
hmm,
why scriptures, just to tie it in again with with the scripture with the elect. That's why it says many are called, but few are chosen.
right,
Because you could be called into this truth, right? You're in it or whatever, but you have to be chosen. You have to make it to the next stage. You have to endure to the end. Then for the Lord to call up your name, He calls you by name, man.
right,
Which ultimately, hey, once the Lord is going to be crowning the elect, hey, He's going to be calling each individual brother by name. You
hmm,
know,
that's right,
Yaquab, so Bun, Bun Judah, gives him the crown.
right,
You see what I'm saying? But if you don't make it to that next trial or that next stage of selection, then hey, your name's not gonna get called up, man.
right,
That means you didn't please the king.
that's right.
You see?
Con. Verse 15, it says, Esther was the daughter of Abihail, who was Mordecai's uncle. Mordecai had adopted his younger cousin Esther. When it was Esther's turn to go to the king, she accepted the advice that Haggai, the eunuch in charge of the harem, she asked for nothing except that what he suggested, and she was admired by everyone who saw her. Uh, Esther was taken to King Xerxes at the royal palace in early winter on the seventh year of his reign, and the king loved Esther more than any of the other young women. He was so delighted with her that he set the royal crown on her head and declared
Jeez,
her queen instead of Vashti.
man. Yeah, yeah, Esther was she was fine, bro.
Yeah,
Everybody, hey, come on, man. Hey, that's why scriptures say, a man loveth nothing more than, the countenance of a beautiful woman, or,
right,
roughly paraphrasing, something cheereth the countenance,
right,
and showing where the king delighted in her, man. I'm imagining his face whenever he saw her, like, when you see someone that you know you like or whatever, like a particular female that you like, whenever you come around her, your spirit changes, where you get in a better mood, because you delight in her very much, you
right,
know.
right. Verse 18 it says, to celebrate the occasion, he gave a great banquet in Esther's honor for all his nobles and officials, declaring a public holiday for the provinces and giving generous gifts to everyone. Even after all the young women had been transferred to the second harem and Mordecai had become a palace official, Esther continued to keep her family background and nationality a secret. She was still following Mordecai's directions just as she did when she lived on in his home. And once again, just proving how obedient Esther was, than Vashti. You
Yeah,
see? Because what? She kept Mordecai's orders. No matter how high in rank she got, she didn't forget about Mordecai's orders, man, to not let nobody know where she was from. You know, she didn't get too proud because that's what
yeah,
happened with Vashti. She got proud, because of her status and position. Verse 21, it says, one day as Mordecai was on duty at the king's gate, two of the king's eunuchs, Bacthana and Tarish, who were guards at the door of the king's private quarters, became angry at King Xerxes and plotted to assassinate him. But Mordecai heard about the plot and gave the information to Queen Esther. She then told the king about it and gave Mordecai credit for the report. When an investigation was made and Mordecai's story was found to be true, the two men were uh, impaled on a sharpened pole. This was all recorded in the book of the history of King Xerxes' reign. You know, so that's
shit.
pretty much it. You got anything else to say?
Now I was about to say, hey, the Lord set that up in the spirit, bro.
Right,
To where Mordecai would gain favor with the king. You know, he probably overheard it. Was probably doing his shift and then overheard it. And
right.
then the Lord set up Esther to where she had the king's ear in a sense, and then boom, boom, boom.
Hmm.
You know, and then
Right,
Mordecai got promoted to a higher position.
right.
Which ultimately those two characters in the story, as you read on the chapter, they were used to, basically for for the nation of Israel at the end of the day not to basically fall under the hands of that Edomite nigga. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
You know, which hey, the Lord is a wonderful author. He's a wonderful storyteller to where he sets it up, from the beginning and shows you how, this is why this happened. So they
Hmm.
have to get to this position so that, the villain doesn't, uh, basically destroy the heroes.
Right.
Yep.
Con, con, con. So that's that sums up the lesson. Lord willing, it was edifying. We're gonna close off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Machakadash. Double honors to our teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well and teach well. And until next time, Shalom.
Shalom.